بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back, my dear students, to the next English lesson. Let's take a look. What are we going to do in today's lesson? So we are still in Unit 3. This is the third lesson in the unit. We will have a grammar lesson. Now, let's take a look. So, remember yesterday when we talked about the homework. What was your homework and what did you do about it? So you were asked to describe a job of your choice and make a business card. Now, I wanted you to write the description here and fill this business card. Let's see and take a look at an example here of the homework. This is the description of my job and this is my business card. So what is the description here of my job? My name is Maram. I am an English teacher. I like learning new things and sharing them with my students. And you can see here my business card. I wrote my name, my job title, my address, my phone number, and lastly my email. But I want you to take a look at the end of the email. What do you see here? We have the letters SA for Saudi Arabia. Now, what are we going to do in today's lesson? Look at the map of the unit. We are done with listening and discuss. Listen and discuss. We're done with pair work. Now, we are going to have a grammar lesson. So, what are the objectives of today's lesson? By the end of this lesson, you will be able to use the present simple to describe a job, form WH questions using simple present, and use the structure want infinitive correctly. I want you to look at these sentences here. Listen and look at the verbs. What is the difference between the verbs here in these sentences? Hussein is a salesperson. He works in a furniture store. This is the first sentence. Let's take a look at the second one. Hussein and his friend work in a furniture store. What is the difference between the underlined verbs here? We have works and we have work. The difference here is with the letter S. Why did we write the verb with S in this sentence and without S in this next sentence? That's what we are going to do in today's lesson. So, one of them with S and the other one without S because this is a simple present tense. What is the meaning of simple present tense? We use the simple present tense to talk about things that are true in general or that happens all the time. Like these examples, Lulu likes ice cream. So in general, Lulu likes to eat ice cream. Lulu likes ice cream. Here we have Reem and Lulu walk to school every day. So in the first one here, it's a general thing. Lulu likes ice cream. But what about the second sentence? Reem and Lulu walk to school every day. This is something that happens all the time. They walk to school every day. Now, we want to see why did we write S here and we didn't write S in the next verb? So, simple present tense, we have affirmative forms and we have negative forms. I told you before, every time you listen to the word negative, we have to put don't or doesn't. So it's the opposite of the sentence. Affirmative verbs, verb plus S or verb by itself, or the negative form, we add don't or doesn't to the verbs. But we want to see when are we going to add the S and when are we not going to add anything to the verb. This is the structure of the sentence. Here we have subject, simple present tense, and object. So this is the structure. Let's change the subject with an actual word. Here we have, for subject, we have the word Judy. Judy. This is the subject. What about a simple present tense verb? We have the word works. What about object? We have in a hospital. So the structure, subject, simple present tense verb, and then we have object. Let's read the sentence. Judy works in a hospital. Judy works in a hospital. This is one example. Let's take a look at two more examples here. Oscar works in an agency. Oscar works, we have S here, in an agency. Judy and Oscar work in different places. Do you see the difference here between this verb, works, and the other verb, work? It's the same meaning, but one with S, one without S. When are we going to add the S, and when are we not going to add anything to the verb? Let's take a look. So here I have this chart for you that shows the subject, verb, and object, or the rest of the sentence. For subjects, we could have pronouns, or I have names. Let's take a look. Just like we are going to follow this structure, and we are going to choose one of these subjects, one of the verbs, and one of the objects. Let's take a look. I work in the hospital. We could, from subject, the chart here, we can choose from the subject I, you, we, they, he, she, or any name, any other names. It could be a name of a place, a name of a person, a name of an animal, or a name of a thing. So every time you see I, you, we, or they, we are not going to add S to the verb. When we see he, she, or it, we are going to add S to the verb. For example, he works in Jeddah. She lives in Jeddah. She writes stories. So the difference here, when it's singular, he or she, we are going to add S to the verb. Every time you see I, you, we, or they, we are not going to add S to the verb. But what if we don't have the word they? In the example before, I told you about Lulu and Dream. Lulu and Dream walk to school every day. If I would like to change Lulu and Dream, I will use the pronoun they. They walk to school every day. Now, let's take a look at the negative form. It's the same thing, but after the subject, we will add don't or doesn't. Now, I want to show you something here. Do you see the S here in doesn't? So we are not going to add the S to the verb. The S will be here in doesn't. Let's take a look. I don't work in the hospital. This is the structure. For example, okay, so we don't live in Jeddah. Now, how about he and she? He doesn't work in Jeddah. She doesn't write stories. See, we did not add the S to the verb. The S is here with doesn't. Now, we have a spelling rule. Let's take a look at these words. There is an S ending on the verb for the third person, singular, for he, she, or it. Works, sleeps, plays. We will add ES if the word ends with S, X, SH, or ch. Like dresses. The word ends with s. That's why we will add es. Fix. The word ends with x. That's why we will add es. Teach. The word ends with the ch. That's why we are going to add es. And the last one, wash. The word ends with s. The word ends with sh. That's why we will add es, not just s. Now, let's take a look at this WH questions with the simple present tense. Look at the picture. What do you see here? Looks like two people are working in a hospital. Now, listen to the audio and look at the questions.
Where does he work? He works in a hospital. Where do they work? They work in a hospital. What do you do? I'm a salesperson.
What do you do? I'm a salesperson. What do you do usually means what is your job? So if someone asks me, what do you do? I will say, I am a teacher. They didn't say, what is your job? But what do you do? It's the same meaning as what is your job? Now, let's take a look at this WH questions here. Look, where does he work? He works in the hospital. Where do they work? They work in a hospital. Now, did you see why did we add s to the verb and we didn't add s to the verb? Because here we're talking about one person. He works in a hospital. But where do they work? It's more than one person. That's why we will not add s to the verb. Now, let's take a look at the next part here. Professions and verb nouns ending with er, ist, or or. Let's take a look at this picture. What do you see here? What do they do? They are players. Now let's take a look. The name of many jobs are like the verbs. Many names for people, jobs have these endings. It's er, ist, or or. Let's take a look here for professions and the verbs, verb noun ending with these. So a teacher teaches. So this is the name of the job. Teacher teaches. A driver drives. So this is the name of the job, and this is what do they do. They teach. Driver drives. Like other example could be a photographer, reporter, writer. A photographer, this is a photographer, and reporter. A reporter reports. A writer writes. What about the other here? A player plays. A translator translates. For other examples of ist, professions that end with ist, it's this. Receptionist, scientist, dentist, journalist. What about professions that end with or? Let's take a look. A designer designs. A writer writes. An actor acts. A director directs. A doctor, so we can't say doctors, this is the job of the doctor, but it ends with or. A translator translates. Now, what about verbs? Want plus infinitive. Let's take a look at these sentences. We have a conversation, a question and an answer. Listen. What do you want to be? I want to be an engineer. What does he want to be? He wants to be a pilot. What do you want? So here the answer is I want to be an engineer. Want to be, this is the infinitive, to be. I want to be an engineer. But in the next question, what does he want to be? So here we asked about you, so the answer would be I. What do you want to be? I want to be. But if I'm asking about another person, we will use this. What does he want to be? He wants to be a pilot. So we will add S here for he or she. We will add S to the word want. She wants to be. He wants to be. They want to be. See? For he, she, we will add S to the word wants. Now, let's take a look. We want to complete these sentences with a simple present tense here. Also, we want to fill the subject pronoun. So we are going to use he, she, it, I, you, they, or we'll read the sentence and see which word is suitable for the sentence. Like this example, Fedwa is a teacher. She teaches. Look at the ES here. She teaches in an elementary school. What about the other ones here? Let's read number 1. My uncle is a writer. We will add a pronoun, then the verb, the simple present tense, history books. So, my uncle, one person, and he's a male. So we are going to use he. My uncle is a writer. He writes. He writes. See? We added S to the word write. He writes history books. Let's take a look at the next one. Omar and Ali are engineers. Something here for construction companies. So what is the pronoun and what is the verb that we are going to add? Here we have Omar and Ali. It's not one person, it's more than one person. What are we going to use for Omar and Ali? They. For they, we are not going to add S to the verb. They work for a construction company. Let's take a look at the next sentence. Adnan is a bus driver. Pronoun, verb, a bus for the city. What could be the answer? He drives a bus for the city. Did you see here the S? Because we have he, the pronoun he. Fahad is a salesperson. Pronoun, verb, computers. What could it be? He sells a computer. Did you see the S? Because we have the pronoun he. Hamid is a journalist. Pronoun, verb, for the city newspaper. What could we use here? He works for the city newspaper. Works. Now, we will write questions for these answers. We will use WH questions. Let's read the first one. The answer is Fahad is a writer. Fahad is a writer. A waiter. Fahad is a waiter. What could be the question for this answer? What does Fahad do? What does Fahad do? Fahad is a waiter. We have the S here for does because Fahad is a one person and we use the pronoun he for Fahad. He or she, we will add S. Now, the next one. He works part-time in a restaurant. What could be the question for this answer? Where does he work? Where does he work? Do you see? We have the S here. Where does he work? He works part-time in a restaurant. The next one. He lives at home with his parents. He lives at home with his parents. What could be the question? Where does he live? Where does he live? See, we have the S. Now, the next one. He wants to be a computer programmer. What could be the suitable WH question for this answer? Where does he live? Okay, we did this one. Yes. What does he want to be? What does he want to be? He wants to be a computer programmer. The next here. He goes to school during the day. He goes to school during the day. What could be the suitable WH question for this answer? What does he do during the day? In the question we have the words, we have does. Now let's take a look at the answers here. And we want to see, do we have S with the verb or we don't have S with the verb? So Fahad is a waiter. He works. We have he works part-time in a restaurant. He lives, because we have he lives. He lives at home with his parents. He wants, look, want to be. Want plus the infinitive. Want to be a computer programmer. He goes, we have S. He goes to school during the day. Now, let's take a look at the next part here. The next question. Complete the conversation with appropriate verbs in the simple present tense. Then practice with a partner. Let's read. Number 1 here. What do your uncles, what? What do your uncles do? What do your uncles do? Now, let's take a look at B here. They're scientists. They're scientists. They something in laboratory. They work. They work. We are not going to add S to the verb here. They work in a laboratory. That's exciting. Now, number 2, the second conversation. Where does your brother, where does your brother work? Why didn't we add S here? Because we already have S here with does. Where does your brother work? He works, because we have he, we have S here. He works in a bank. He's a teller, but he, something, to be a manager. Want or wants? He wants. Because we have the word he, we are going to add S to the word want. He wants to be a manager. Now, what did we do in today's lesson? So for a recap, we used the present simple to describe a job. We formed WH questions using present simple, and we used the structure want plus infinitive correctly. Want plus want to be or wants to be. Now, for the homework, what are you going to do is this. Choose an adjective for each of these jobs. Use the words in the box or your own ideas. Then compare with a partner. Do you agree or disagree with the jobs? So let's pick a word here from the jobs. We have teacher, dentist, lawyer, computer programmer, or a reporter. For adjectives, we could choose easy, difficult, exciting, fun, or interesting to describe the jobs. So we are going to pick one of these jobs and pick one of these adjectives, like this. This is an example. I want you to do the same. A conversation between two, when you compare, I think reporters have an interesting job. Reporters, this is the job we picked, and interesting is the adjective we picked for it. I think reporters have an interesting job. Yes, but their job is very stressful. They have a lot of deadlines. So, this is what you are going to do here for the homework. Choose a job, choose an adjective, and make a conversation like this. And that's it for today's lesson. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next English lesson.